All right, guys. Well, welcome to July 31st, last day of July, and Friday, our all partner call. We're gonna talk about three things today, guys. We're gonna keep it real simple. I shared on a Slack channel last night that we're gonna talk about the word structure. We're gonna talk about the word transformation, and we're gonna talk about the word consistency. And I'm not sure we're going to go in any specific order around those three words. In fact, I believe those three words will come up multiple times today: structure, transformation, and consistency. But before we get in to those three words, we're going to start our Friday like we do every single Friday morning. Go ahead and raise your hand if you'd like to share some gratitude. What are you grateful for this morning on July 31st? Who's grateful for something or someone? Jerry.
Morning, Chris.
Morning.
I wanted to share some gratitude. I'm only about 3 weeks into launch, and I'm so honored to be a partner with you and everyone on this call to launch the expansion team in New York City. And it's a real challenging time here. I got to be candid with you. New York City's never looked the way it has, and it's easy to take that negative narrative and look at Fifth Avenue with the boarded up retail and highest number of homes on the market ever. We're meeting records on inventory. Landlords are having trouble making their payments because tenants aren't paying their rent. But because I'm a part of this organization, because I have Holly, who has really been inspiring, powerful for me, helped me understand the importance of career visioning. I'm dismantling my team and rebuilding it, learning what has made all of you so successful. And Holly has been instrumental in that. Marley as the launch coach, she's smart, witty. She can make you laugh at the same time. You're learning important stuff. And my coach, who's been incredible, Sedalia, every week she helps me work through challenges. And so my real point is that, colleagues of mine have a choice. We all have a choice here. We can just curl up on our bed and watch Netflix all day and just talk about how bad things are, or we can take note that this is New York City and there is opportunity. People are having babies. People are getting married. They need bigger homes. And I'm taking market share largely because of what I'm learning here. So I'm super grateful and really excited to grow with all of you.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all those thoughts. Where Netflix may come up again later. So it's funny you mentioned Netflix. So thanks for sharing that gratitude, Jerry. We are grateful to have you and incredibly grateful to have you in potentially one of my favorite cities in the world. So thank you, thank you. Javier.
Hey, good morning, Chris.
Morning.
A huge thank you and shout out to everybody that including experienced team members here, but starting with Spinelli Group, Jeanette, and everybody on the team here. They're very supportive and they've launched me into different type of mindsets and new concepts that normally one person without this knowledge doesn't think about, whether it be through simple things such as language of sales and practicing and just getting into that right mindset like you've stated before, and practicing and achieving focus, and it definitely experience as well, listening to you, Chris, your calls, Holly, um, Miss Benson. So thank you so much for this, the journey so far, and I look forward to where this long, crazy, winding road leads to. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, we're grateful you're here. And it must be an age thing because I got called by first name Chris, Holly got called by first name Holly, and then Katie got called Miss Benson. So I'm just going to leave that right there. All right, Chip.
Well, first of all, I want to, your next favorite city is be Tallahassee, Florida. I mean, New York City may be your favorite, but I tell you right now, the time and effort Holly and Mrs. Katie have put in to helping our team refocus on our big why. It's amazing how much they've poured into us and how much they care about being a partner in our business. And I want to say thank you for laying the roadmap and truly laying into how you can help their business, but more importantly, our business grow within yours. But thank you again.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you. We're going to talk about a roadmap or a playbook again later today as well. So love that. Thanks, Chip. Melanie.
Hi, I wanted to share some gratitude. So I don't think that, daily I'm grateful for the experience culture, but when you see panelists like Heather and Joel and John and Kristen and Dawn all together like that, it's almost like you have to pinch yourself to realize how incredibly lucky that we are to have all of those people in our world pouring into us, sharing with us their strategies, their systems, their models. And I watched that yesterday live, and I was just floored. They're all incredible, and I'm extremely grateful.
Thanks for sharing that, Melanie. I think individually we have incredible people, and collectively we have unstoppable human beings. So we're going to talk. We're going to wrap up today's call talking about community, and community is built on each one of us. We're going to have one more grateful, and then we're going to move to our values. Holly, what are you grateful for?
I am so grateful for Adelina. We have been collaborating a lot on talent in Austin. And then this morning we had our first joint recruiting appointment, which was great fun. And I think that doing something together is always better, and that we were able to spotlight each other and what we're great at, and just really appreciate the partnership and who she is and how she shows up every single day.
Love that. Thank you. Grateful for Adelina's perspective always. I was on a call yesterday that she was on, and just always comes to the table, challenges the way we all think for the better, and gets us to just think at times in different ways. So appreciate that greatly. We're gonna transfer over and begin talking about values. We believe that values build value in an organization, in every one of our companies and our individual businesses. Our values are built on this word growth. So growth is the underlining value that we sort of layer every other value on top of. The values of giving, of opportunity, of wealth, being thankful, right? Gratitude and humility. Where did you see maybe one of our or any of our values demonstrated this week that you just wanted to acknowledge and call out and remind our organization about? Dildy, is that you for values?
And can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah.
All right. So for opportunity, and I just want to just based on what Holly just said, I was about to send Chris, you, Ben, Adelina. I was about to hit the send button, and I had Holly and Jolene on there, and Katie as well. So I am super excited, and I think she's on this call, but we've got super exciting news. My husband's niece is going to be, I hope I'm not jumping the gun here, but she talked to 3 of the teams in Austin, and will be joining Adelina and her leadership, and side by side with Maria. I hope I'm not jumping the gun, but I'm so excited for her. And this just shows the opportunity for others that we may know outside of our area, and to be able to expand and create opportunity for others and family. And this is a way that my legacy can continue to grow. And I think she's here. So she just posted in the group right now. So it just brings so much joy to my heart to see how we come together and the community that we have. And just so Melanie knows, Melanie, I'm still pinching myself, and I'm going on, I don't know if it's 2 years or 3 years or whatever, but I'm still pinching myself. So it's just amazing.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, and welcome to your niece for sure. Anyone else want to share where they may have seen values, any giving, relationships, opportunity, wealth, Thanksgiving, thanks, or humility? It's almost November, guys. It feels like it. Kate. You can unmute. Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, there we go. No, maybe not. Kate, you're going to get that dog under control, and then we'll call you back. Hillary.
It's so funny. I have actually wanted to recognize Kate. for growth in general. We just ran a small contest over the last couple of weeks, and she was the winner in that. So I just want to shout out to her for all the growth over the past couple of months, and all of her hard work is showing up now in production.
It's interesting what showing up does, right? One more. How about Jordan?
Hey, can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome. I actually have two real quick ones. So I wanted to kind of shout out Kristen Williams and Carter. We had a call earlier this week about starting your day off right. And I talked about one of the things for me was, getting up and getting my run in and those kinds of things in the morning. And Kristen's just been really forthright about like following up on that, making sure I'm doing that, talking about her progress and what she's been doing in the morning. And then also for opportunity, I wanted to shout out Holly and Amy Downs. I have a cousin that's been in real estate for years, and she's just a powerhouse, but she's been with Century 21 and Fort Worth for forever. And I don't know if she's always had the best support system. And so I wanted to hook her up with somebody who could provide that. And so Holly and Amy made the reach for and have been chatting with her. And I just appreciate them taking time out to do that.
Awesome. We have multiple family members talking to teams and within the organization, whether joining or learning. That's a total win. So thanks for sharing that. I love that. It's multiple opportunities showing up in our world based on the organization and the size of the organization that we're creating and building. So love that. All right, guys, we're going to jump into our content today. I appreciate everyone. There were way more hands of gratitude and way more hands of just wanting to shout out moments of our value showing up in the organization. And I'll tell you, I think to me that's as important as anything. It's as important as production, because I truly believe that when we're grateful and we demonstrate values, production show up. Why? Because some of our values are going to be based on the conversations we have today. So let's talk about this word structure. Maybe we can get some thoughts from the group. When you hear the word structure, what do you think of? What does structure mean? We're all in real estate, so this word should have some immediate meaning for us. Maybe even apply it to real estate. Joel?
For me, it means stability.
So structure means stability. And that would be a perfect definition based on your role in your organization as well, and what you bring actually to your team. So I love that. So structure means stability. Who else? Alex.
For me, I visualize the framework being set so that everything else can be built around it or added to it.
I love that definition. Right. So you think structure, you think framework, but you're also thinking already ahead and saying, well, that for the purpose of building around it or on top of it. How about one more? Alex Frank.
I think of structure being models.
Models. All right. So we have this stability. We have a framework to build on top of. And we have models. I'm going to share something that I shared with some of our leaders in the organization earlier in the week. And I came across a quote from, I believe, one of the greatest CEOs our country has seen across all industries and across all companies, and that was Alan Mulally. He was the president of Boeing. And then eventually became the CEO of Ford from 2006 to 2014. Here's why I think he was so great. I mean, there's lots of reasons why he was a great CEO, but I respect a CEO that takes responsibility for an organization in difficult times, makes decisions, and doesn't expect anybody else to bail them out or fix them. Right? Alan Mulally came into Ford at a time where most of the big five, right, or the major car companies were taking billions of dollars from the government to fix problems in an industry that were created by the industry, truly. And he did not do that. So that's one of the reasons why I respect him. But he said this, and I'm gonna say it slow in case you want to write this down. He said, I have learned one key lesson, which has near universal applicability. He's learned one key lesson in his entire tenure as a CEO or president of some of the major, two of the most, like, the largest companies in the world, let alone our country. He said, we do not get better without structure. We do not get better without structure. Now, I think that applies to every single one of us, right? Some of us showed up to expansion and into our worlds with teams and big businesses. You will not get better without structure. Some of us showed up and plugged into those teams, right, as buyer's agents and listing agents and partner agents. And you will not get better without structure. And some of us showed up as individual agents and with the goal of building something big. And I promise you will not get better without structure. This is what Alan said. He said, everybody knew the plan. And that is actually one of his most famous quotes, right? Know the plan, know the plan, know the plan. Which, interestingly enough, last week when I wrote about a playbook, I should have written about Alan Mulally, truly. But he said everybody knew the plan. Everybody knew the status. Everybody knew the areas that needed special attention. This is how the executives discussed the only metric that mattered during Ford's turnaround. And his metric, how can we help one another more? That's not a bad metric to have, guys. But isn't that what partnerships are all about? Isn't that why we are on a team? Isn't that why we're part of a network? Isn't that why we've plugged in? We do not get better without structure. Everybody knew the plan. This is also, after he talked about structure, he said, whether we're targeting an organizational goal or a personal one, we do not get better without structure. So last week I wrote about a playbook. When you hear that word playbook, what do you think of? Right? What comes to your mind when you hear the word playbook? Who wants to share? Playbook. Alex?
Hello. I think of steps needed or steps taken to reach a certain goal.
Yeah. So you think that's almost the business definition of playbook, right? Yep. Perfect. Steps needed to reach a certain goal. Carter?
Yeah, it's a series of model systems, tools to reach an ultimate result.
Yeah. How do we follow a playbook? What must we do in order to follow a playbook? Javier? What must we do?
There's a great book I read in the past called Tribal Leadership. And it's basically, it leverages the natural groups to build a thriving organization through leadership. It finds how to first assess your company's tribal culture and then raise the companies through heights of success. So I think when it comes to playbook, yes, there's blueprints. Yes, there are certain plays, but I think this book is also, it shows great concepts as far as when a playbook comes to mind.
Yeah. Here's the deal, guys. I love the comments, right? So multiple comments. Well, what must we do? We must practice. But here's the interesting thing. In order to practice, we have to know the plays to practice. In order to practice, we need to learn the plays. In order to practice, we need to eliminate creativity initially. Creativity is necessary in business and sports. And we're going to talk about why. Because ultimately, rarely does an opponent on the field, right, let the play roll out exactly as we wanted it to be. Now, the playbook should have specific tools, systems, scripts to use if the opponent shows up, right? If the opponent shows up taller or faster or bigger than we thought. But first we need to learn that playbook. I'm going to challenge everybody to go back to the playbook, right? We showed up for a playbook. We came to our team because we said, gosh, my skills will fit into this team. And some of us are struggling because we're not reading the playbook. Now there's challenges, yes? One of the things that Joel said, and I'm going to bring this word back. One of the things that Joel said was structure brings stability. Structure brings stability. Playbooks bring stability to your business. Executing the plays brings stability to your business. A couple weeks ago, we talked about, actually last week, we talked about something in life on our partner call that is like the exact opposite of structure. In fact, this thing that we talked about last week can destroy structure. What was it? Who remembers? Who remembers what we talked about last week that is the opposite of structure and can destroy structure? Let's see. Alex Frank.
Was it lack of focus could destroy structure?
We did talk about that, and that could, and it wasn't what I was thinking of. Melanie.
That was actually what I was going to say too, is distraction.
Well, clearly you guys are right and I am wrong in this one. The other thing we talked about is fire. Think about fire in general. Is there any structure to fire? Does fire destroy structure? It could. So as I thought about running the plays, and I thought about what gets in the way. If we've learned them and we're committed to execute them, what gets in the way? They're fires. I promise you that if there are 200 people on the call, there are probably 180 fires right now burning within our organization. Some little, some huge, some forest fires, some just a match. But there are fires everywhere. Reid Hoffman says that great entrepreneurs are able to let fires burn. Now that seems scary, especially knowing the damage that fires can do. But this is what he said. The problem with business, guys, is fires are all around you. There isn't, he said in an interview, you're not going to wake up one day and realize, whoa, there's a fire right next to a propane tank. Because if that was how business worked, you would just know that's the one fire I need to put out. Right? That's the most important fire. But the problem in business is there are all these little fires all around us. And he said, you're going to face figurative fires. And you're not going to know which ones to put out, when to put them out. And he said, here's the catch. And I love this imagery in our mind as we think about our business right now. He said, if you try to put all the fires out, you will burn yourself out. And that's what happens for some of us, right? Some of us need everything perfect, need everything in order. Some of us, right? Anxiety shows up when things don't go quite right. Anxiety shows up when we drop a ball. Anxiety shows up when one customer isn't 1,000% happy. And the fact is we want customer service at the peak. And yet, if we deal with enough customers, guys, there will always be fires. He said, when you're scaling a company, and every single one of us is here to scale, right? Scale our personal business, scale our team, scale the organization. There will always be metaphorical fires. So fighting against us, right? Our opposition, the defensive line in our business is these fires, guys. So here's an interesting strategy. At the start of the day, we wake up and many of us show up and it's like, gosh, I already have 6 fires to put out. Maybe I'll just go back to bed. Like there are too many fires to handle. And actually that elevates what? It elevates our stress, elevates our anxiety. Here's an interesting tactic I came across. And this is something I've been trying for the last couple of weeks. The tactic was from Brian Chesky, right? Founder of Airbnb, or one of the co-founders of Airbnb. He said this. He said, if you can imagine, I have a lot of things to get done every single day in my business. And this is what I do. He said, I play a little game with myself. Well, games immediately eliminate some stress. So I liked that. He said, I play a little game with myself. I do write down all the things that I need to get done. I write down all the things I need to get done today. I think about what has to get done, what fires there are, and I just write them down. I put them down on a piece of paper, right? Mentally, I take them. Barb Dock would say, I take them out of my head and I place them on the table, right? Now they're all in front of me. And he said, and here's the game. Here's the game. He said, I asked myself what one action could take care of 2 or 3 or 4 of these items on the list. Right? Instead of one item at a time, what action could I do that could take care of 2 or 3? And then I do it again. And he said, here's what's interesting. I might start the day with 11 or 12 or 14 things. And he said, I promise I never do more than 2 or 3 things a day. And yet I figure out how I can group one action to get rid of 3 or 4 problems, fires, or activities. What is simple activity? Start of the day, play that game. Why? Because you can't put all the fires out. But if I could do one activity and 3 go away, winning. If I could do one activity and 2 things get knocked off the list, winning. If I could do one activity and 4 things go away, winning. What did I do? 3 things. What did I knock out? I don't do the math, but maybe 9 things, right? Brian Chesky, his focus is, it's similar to the one thing, yes? What's one thing I can do such that 2 or 3 or 4 things get knocked off my list? Write them out and figure that out. It reminded me of eliminating fires is eliminating anxieties. Remember, your fire is a lack of structure in your day to get you off that playbook. Seneca, one of the most well-read Stoics, said this: never will there be a shortage of reasons for anxiety. Some of us are like, well, he was right, now what? Like, never will there be a shortage of reasons for anxiety. The guy worked for the Roman Emperor Nero. Do you think that was difficult? Nero was not a great man. Like, that was a difficult role. It was an anxiety-laden, stress-filled role, and he was a Stoic, right? Seneca was one of the calmest dudes around. Why? Because he didn't let someone else's false emergency become his priority. Remember, don't let someone else's false emergency become your priority. Some of our mornings start with texts and now I said false emergency. If there's an emergency, it could be your priority. But don't let someone else's false emergency become your priority. Why? You'll be consumed by the fire. I listened to an interview this week on this topic. Well, it reminded me of this topic. Former Google exec, Jamie Cassup. He worked for Google for 14 years. He was one of their chief education directors. And he said, here's what I'm going to share with you. Every business could be run with 3 questions. Some of you had some calls with this week, and I gave you these 3 questions. It's my go-to right now because it solves almost every problem. It solves problems in motivation. It solves problems in energy. It solves problems in feeling lost. And maybe that's you. Maybe you don't feel as motivated as you did 3 months ago. Maybe you feel a little bit lost because of the situation you're in. Here's the 3 questions. He said, I designed my day with these 3 questions. Question number 1, what problem do I want to solve? At the end of the day, all of us are here to solve problems, guys. And if you're not solving a problem that means something to you, you need to figure out what problem means something. When I decided to build something, when I decided I wanted to build something big, I know what my problem is that I wanted to solve. I want to solve the problem of business owners having to work and not being able to live experientially while building something big. I believe that that's a problem, right? That is my mission, to solve that problem. Now, two, the second question, once you know what problem you really want to solve, question two is, how do you want to solve it? Now, I happen to be part of an industry that I believe gives me an incredible platform to solve it. I know how I can solve it, right? What problem do I want to solve? How do I want to solve it? And question number three, what do I need to know, or what do I need to master to solve that problem? Interestingly enough, if anyone on a team right now feels a little bit lost, sit down with your leader and have this conversation. What problem do you really want to solve, right? How do you really want to solve that problem? And what do you need to know, or what do you need to master today such that you can be on the path to solve that problem? Interestingly enough, a playbook will form. And I promise most of you already have that playbook. He said, Jamie Cressup said that what he learned at Google, and this is something they teach at Google, that a 20% shift in focus and activity will bring a 180-degree shift in fulfillment. Think about that, guys. If you feel like, man, I feel like I'm just running. I feel like, gosh, I don't know if I love what I'm doing. A 20% shift in focus and activity. So what are you doing every day? A 20% shift in focus and activity will bring a 180-degree shift in fulfillment. That's all it takes. If you feel unfulfilled in what you're doing, 20% shift. Find the 20% shift. And where does it show up? Those three questions. Alex, we're going to go through those questions one more time. Number one, what problem do I want to solve? Number two, how do I want to solve it? Number three, what do I need to know, or what do I need to master in order to solve that problem? Those three questions will be your 20% shift in focus to lead to what? 180-degree shift in fulfillment. And I promise, guys, it all starts with what? Structure. You are here for a reason. Run the plays. You're here for a reason, right? Plug into the systems and models. You're here for a reason. If your team is showing up for Power Hour, show up for Power Hour. If your team is getting together to lead gen, run the lead gen plays. If your team is meeting back to discuss it, meet back to discuss it. What do we allow to get in the way? I see it too. Oh gosh, I have an inspection. Oh gosh, I have this appointment. Oh gosh, and you know what? All I think to myself is, well, there's a little fire somewhere around their structure. And if we're not careful, that fire will grow. Just be careful, right? Structure. Now, I believe that 20% shift in focus and activity will bring a 180-degree shift in fulfillment, which actually leads us to this conversation of transformation. And I wanted to have a conversation with one of our partners. I want you guys to meet her. We're going to have a short conversation with someone that I'm just personally impressed with. Kimberly, are you on the call? Oh, you're going to have to raise your hand, actually, and then I'm going to have to unmute you. Where are you? Kimberly. There you are. I call you Kimberly. We'll call you Kim for social purposes. How are you, Kim?
I appreciate that. It was Kimberly when I was being scolded as a kid.
Well, we're not doing that. So how are you, Kim, this morning? Good?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you in the midst of our community.
Awesome. Well, I expected you to be fantastic because one of the things that just impresses me is regardless of what is going around you, regardless of what fires may be burning, you show up with energy and positivity and fantasticness, if that's a word. You recently actually went back to school and received your MBA in Transformational Leadership and Coaching. First, maybe I ask you this question. What does that even mean? What is transformational leadership and coaching? And why were you drawn to that path?
So I was drawn to that path because I am so clear that I can't control necessarily circumstances that occur in life, in community, in family. But what I do have control over is how I am going to show up.
Okay.
I do not have to live in reactivity. And I think if you're not consciously aware of yourself and in control, what happens is you end up being a reaction to your entire life. So I wanted to intentionally interrupt that and to empower myself, not only to make a difference in my life, the clients I serve, family, and community. To say, doesn't matter what happens, who are you going to be in the face of it? That's the conversation I want to have.
You know, it's interesting, Kim. I watched an interview, whether you realize this or not, but I watched an interview that you did with a couple of your professors right after you completed your course and graduated with your master's degree. And one of the things that one of the doctors said was, here's what I know about Kim. It is not possible for her to not take responsibility for herself. It's not even possible for me to think of you not taking responsibility for yourself. So let me ask you this, and this may be a more personal question. You said you didn't want to, and you wouldn't allow yourself to be in a situation that you didn't take responsibility for, but also knowing that you couldn't control everything. What led to that belief? What happened maybe in your life that brought you there?
You know, I was a kid and I took responsibility very, very early. I'm the oldest of three, so I think it's just natural being a firstborn that you learn to be a caretaker. But I just had a lot of responsibility really early. And what I cared about were the people around me, even more than myself. And on days, it reminds me of an image of a lion. And the caption said, I would quit, except I know that there are people watching me, and there were 3 cubs following. So a huge source of inspiration for me has been my children.
Okay.
What example am I setting? What legacy am I going to leave?
So having people, having the image of people alongside of you and behind you has led you down that path. Explain to us maybe some of the challenges that you've gone through over the last couple of years.
Absolutely. Most recently, we lost 7 people in our family in 14 months. And so that was an incredible, my fiance passed away, my sister died in a car accident at 33 years of age. I took in 3 of her small kids on the heel of that. And as I was becoming acclimated to raising her 6, 8, and 10-year-old, even though I had much older children, 6 months later, my fiance died. And then we had several other relatives. But even before the avalanche of losses within the family, what brought me to Chicago from Shaker Heights, Ohio, was I had a coach, and he was a seminar leader with Landmark Education. And he believed I was unstoppable and I could do anything. And for 5 years, he coached me, and he passed away. And I thought to myself, my coach said to me, I'm training and developing you, not for you to just absorb the information. I have an expectation that you put it in action and you show the world who you are. So in honor to pay tribute to my coach, I said, what's the best thing that you can do to pay tribute to someone who believed in you? Whether it was a teacher, coach, mentor, parent, go and become what they saw. And so with that, I put myself in a leadership course, which landed me in Chicago, which ultimately led to me enrolling in the master's degree program. And so I think I honor my coach every day that I show up and I play full out. It doesn't matter whether I win or not. I believe I will win. I believe I have the capacity to win, but just the fact that I'm willing to show up and play my heart out and to apply everything that he poured into me, every book that he read, every seminar that he was in, somebody paid it. You pay a price for this group. All the research and time and development and your team, everything that you guys bring to the table to pour into us, what a shame it would be if we didn't actually receive that information and then apply it to the best of our ability. I think that's how we show gratitude. And as a byproduct, there's no way we can lose with that kind of playbook.
Yeah. One of the things that I appreciate is your perspective on preparation. And I just want to acknowledge you have showed up and you've plugged in. Like, you run the plays, Kim. Like you show up, give me the playbook, tell me what to do, I will run these plays. And you've seen some incredible results, and I'm just super proud of just even the last 60 days, incredible results, Kim. So congrats on that. Talk to me a little bit about preparation. It's funny, I've in that speech and conversation that you gave, you talked about a fire extinguisher. What is your perspective on preparation?
So I always say that the time to figure out you need a fire extinguisher is not when the house is on fire. You know, it's a different experience if you get a flat tire, if you actually have roadside service or AAA.
Mm-hmm.
So we prepare for war in times of peace. So we don't win. I don't believe that athletic teams win on game day. They win in the practice. Game day is easy. They don't pay us thousands of dollars for the listing presentation or for writing a contract. It's for all of the preparation that we've done over our entire career that makes us excellent and powerful in those moments. That's how you get a Kobe Bryant or LeBron James. It's because they are committed to practice.
Yeah.
And then they're able to deliver when they're under pressure.
That preparation, we've been talking about it for weeks, right? Right. We have been talking as an organization about the importance of preparation and the importance of showing up and the importance of consistency. Let me ask you this. I use this word almost as a joke, or kind of an aside, but you've had this sudden burst of results in the last 60 days. Right? 4 or 5 pendings at a time, like listings showing up. What's behind your sudden burst of results? What can we learn, Kim?
I think laser sharp focus. Laser sharp focus. What happened with me is I completed the master's degree, which was taking a lot of time. You know, there are a lot of things. When you are talented, you are always going to have a lot of options. And so I think that one of my most significant vulnerabilities was saying yes to too many things. I was president of the Women's Council for the National Association of Realtors. I'm a social butterfly. I love it. You know, Parent Teacher Association, all these things. But if I'm going to succeed at a high level, I have to really pay. Every time I say yes to anything, I'm saying no to something else. And I learned how to start saying no and not to feel bad about it. I was afraid to say no. I was all about looking good. I didn't want to feel bad or make people upset with me. But when I say no to all of these little fires, as you coined them, even these things that look like opportunities, when I started being clear about my priorities, then I was saying yes to my business and I saw immediate results.
Yeah. What's interesting is what shows up as a sudden burst of results is actually years of consistency, right? Years of training and practice, years of plugging in and showing up. And I wanted to honor that today, Kim. I wanted people to hear that, you know, we all have our challenges and struggles, and oftentimes we don't know what people are going through, right? When people experience you, Kim, they don't know that you lost 7 incredibly important human beings in your world over a 14-month period. Think through that. You haven't even healed from one, and here comes another and another and another. How many children are you raising, Kim?
I have 7 altogether, 4 of my own and 3 more that I took in.
7, guys. It's a powerful woman leading a powerful business because she's willing to transform. And I think there's this underlying current over that entire transformation, Kim, is that sure, you're doing it for you, but you're doing it for those around you. And I actually take away and wrote down, there are people in your perspective that you owe that to. And we owe someone something that we love and care about and that gave us something important to us. We show up with an energy level that is well, you were called unstoppable. So that with an energy level that is unstoppable. So
that's right.
Thank you, my friend, for being who you are. Thank you for being part of our community. We win to have someone at your caliber and talent and background and education, both tactically, right, strategically, and also just who you are as a human. I am grateful today to have you and have other people experience you. And I will tell you, if you need an agent there, you got one. She is unstoppable. So appreciate you being on the call, my friend.
I appreciate that. And I'll just leave everyone with this thought that my coach impressed upon me a long time ago. He said, you matter. That's why I'm coming out of retirement to coach you. And every one of you who are listening to me right now, you matter. That's why we're in this conversation. That's why your clients are attracted to you. That's why your families are going to be blessed because of the effort that you that you exude. So I'm just really proud to be amongst the team. And I think that there's no accident that we're all here together. There's something very special about each person on this team, and together, wow, right? There's nothing that we can't do as a unit.
Awesome. Love you. Appreciate you so much.
Appreciate you too. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day, everybody. And I'm still plugged in listening to the rest of the meeting, even though I'm crying.
Yeah, I think other people are too. So thanks, my friend.
Thank you.
Wow. On that note, guys, we're going to talk about some consent. I think we should just wrap up the call. On that note, we're going to talk about consistency. We're going to talk about consistency. There's no perfect word to talk about following a conversation with Kim than consistency. The woman is consistent. Now, interestingly enough, what she shared, and that was an unscripted conversation, guys, but what she shared is her consistency has shown up because she is consistent for other people. And in being consistent for other people, she's incredibly consistent for herself. She's growing into conversations that other people had around her about what they saw in her. So we need to be that for each other, understand that. But here's what's so interesting. We're gonna get a little bit of science today around consistency. There was a famous experiment done by two social psychologists, Morton Deutsch and Harold Gerard. And what they wanted to study was how do human beings become more consistent? It's one of the things that real estate agents struggle with, consistency. So they had they put together an experiment. I'm going to walk you through it. They had college students estimate in their own minds the length of lines they were shown. So they were shown these lines on pieces of paper, some long, some short, some longer, and they were to estimate what they thought the length of each one of those lines was. So one group of college students had to commit themselves publicly to their initial judgment of how long those lines were. So they wrote the length down, they signed their name to it, and they turned it into a proctor. So line number 1, 6 inches, sign my name. Line number 2, I think that's probably 17 inches, sign their name. Line number 3, 2 inches, sign their name. So that was group number 1. They wrote down what they said, they sent it in. The second group committed themselves to their estimate, but they did it somewhat privately. They took a pen and they took a pad of paper, and it was one of those pads that, remember as a kid you had, and you could just lift up the little plastic thing and it erased it. They're called magic pads. So they wrote down each length of each line on that pad. Each time they did it, they wrote it down and then they erased it. They wrote down the next one and then they erased it. They wrote down the next one and then they erased it. Got it? The third group didn't write it down at all. They said, hey, how long do you think the line is? And just commit to memory what you think the length of that line is. So they just had it in their mind privately. So some people committed themselves publicly, some people committed themselves privately, and some not really at all to their initial decisions, right? Their initial decision was, I think it's this, but there was no real commitment. The psychologists, the social psychologists wanted to figure out, of those 3 types of students, which would be more inclined to stick with their first judgment after receiving now new information about why their judgment might be correct or incorrect. So they showed them lines with actual inches on them, right? Not the same size as the ones they saw, but similar. So this is the new information. Hey, well, if this is a 6-inch line, what do you think about your guess? If this is a 12-inch line, what do you think about your guess? If this is a 14-inch line, what do you think about your guess? And then they were given the chance to change their estimates, right? So everybody was given new evidence based on their initial estimates, potentially being wrong, and they were given the chance to change their estimates. Now, the results were quite clear, guys. The students that never wrote down their first choices, they didn't write them down, they were least loyal to those choices. right? So when the opportunity came to change, yeah, they just changed it in their head. Oh, well, yeah, I think that one's 7. I think that one's 14. I think that one's 6. When new evidence was presented that questioned the wisdom of decisions that had never left their heads, they were most influenced by the new information. And they changed their view as to what was correct. Compared to the uncommitted students, those that wrote their answers for even a moment on the erasable pad were significantly less willing to change their minds when given a chance. They had written it down. Those students were less likely to change their mind, even though their answers were almost anonymous, right? Only they knew what their answer was. But by far, the students that publicly recorded their initial answer, like, this is my belief, this is my stand, this is my position, they were most resolute and refused to shift from their positions later, even when allowed. Hey, do you want to change that? Nope, I'm good, not changing it. Public commitment hardened them to their answers, guys. They were stubborn or committed or consistent with their public answers. Those social psychologists prove something incredibly valuable for each of us, that we are truest to our decisions if we are bound to those decisions publicly. Now, then they dove in and figured out why. Some of it is just ego. Some of it is, but what they found, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, ultimately, they want to be congruent human beings. See, we use that word a lot around here. Like, what you see is what you get with us. We want to be congruent human beings. How we show up in person, but behind the scenes, on the private phone call, with our clients, on stage, we're just congruent. We all want to be congruent human beings. Now we need to be congruent with the goals that we set for ourselves. How do we set them? Well, we learned a valuable lesson. I hope they're written down. In fact, I hope they're written down. I hope they're turned in, and I hope we sign our name to it. Why? Because if we do, it won't matter what new information comes to us along the way in 2020. We're sticking to that goal that we wrote down. What were your goals? Do you know them? What percentage of the way towards your goal are you? Do you review them? Does your entire team know them? Do you have those conversations? Guys, it's a valuable lesson. Now let's talk about something, because I think this is as important. What's the new information? Well, 2020 is new information for all of us. The market may have told you that your judgment was incorrect. The results you are having right now may be telling you that your judgment was incorrect. Your activity level may be telling you that your judgment was incorrect, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Oftentimes we take this new information, and if we don't write them down, if we don't hand them in, if we don't have the weekly conversation about where are we, what did we say we were going to do? What did we do? How do we feel about that? What do we need to do now? If we don't have them written down, if you're not part of that community of a team that's checking in and coaching you and looking at your goal, guess what? As new information comes in, what are you going to do? Think about your head and like, yeah, you know what? This market has affected everybody. So I'm going to ratchet back my 24 unit goal to 18. I promise you. And then some of us have kind of, well, we wrote it down, but we're not sharing that with anybody. We're not really telling people what we really want to do. We have a magic erase pad, and we're just like, March came and we erased. Like May came and we erased again. June came and we erased. The fact is we need to write it down. We need to hand it in. We need to sign it, and we need to have that conversation. Otherwise, guess what? The world is going to give us some new information, and we're going to convince ourselves that we made the wrong decision back in November or December when we wrote our goals down. But interestingly enough, consistency comes from public accountability. So if we struggle with that, I guess the real question is, do we struggle with consistency? Is that the underlying or the root issue? Consistency is a big deal. How do we get it? I'm going to add one word. I said it was going to be a 3-word meeting, but we're going to add one word: I promise I'll wrap up on time. The last word I want to talk about is community. Because again and again and again and again today, that showed up. And each one of us have multiple communities to plug into. I believe our organization has the finest teams in the country, truly. And we will continue to get into business with only the finest teams. There are lots of team members on the call. You know what? Plug into your community, right? Recommit, perhaps in writing. Send an email to your team lead, right? To your leader, to your director, right? This morning, and say, hey, I am in writing committing to that goal. The community that you will build will be powerful. Remember, here's an interesting thought about community. Community isn't built on easy, guys. Nothing we do here is going to be just easy. Community is built by doing very difficult things together. Community pulls people back in as we begin to disengage. So if people are reaching out to you, welcome it. You haven't done anything wrong. But the environments that we're in are built around disengagement. Think about this. I heard this recently and it stuck with me. Society is all about right now about reducing friction, right? About reducing difficult. Netflix, someone mentioned that earlier. Netflix, ultimately what it did was reduce friction. You don't have to go rent a movie. You don't have to go to the movies. All you have to do is sit on your couch. It reduces friction. But what does it also reduce? It reduces personal interaction for sure, right? It reduces community. Grubhub, again, reduces friction. You don't even have to go. And I know these are interesting times, and some of those things are positive for preventing viruses to spread. But these things were here before that. Like our society is trying to reduce friction, and by reducing friction and making everything easy, what breaks down? Community. So if you think it's hard to be in real estate and hard to be on a team, and gosh, why do we have to do this? And why is that in the playbook? And what? Listen, community is built with friction. We have seen the lowering of friction across multiple business platforms. And I'm telling you, we are not going to reduce friction. Why? Because friction builds community. Remember that. Kim's had a lot of friction in her life, and you know what? She's part of an incredible community here. And we will take her in, and we will never want to see her leave our community, right? Why? Because friction builds community. People will often say, well, gosh, my leader's pushing me too hard, or there's too many things to get done. I can't do it all, or it's just too much. Or I had an awesome conversation with one of our teams in Austin, and listen, a storm is coming, guys. And that leader said, we need to buckle down and put 10% more effort in. And you know what? Some people would say 10%, I'm giving you 110, right? But the fact is if people say we push them too hard, that it's too much to do, well, we take that feedback and say we need to push harder. And I'm not saying that to be difficult. I'm saying that because I know that friction builds community. It turns off a lot of people. People will leave our community because of friction, but guess what? They're going to. A frictionless system that doesn't have community. Easy expands markets. Easy increases the total addressable size of market. Do we want our transactions to be easy? Absolutely. But on our teams, we need some friction. We need that hard work. The person that was talking about this referenced some of the most, look at Tough Mudder races and Spartan races, and many of us have actually participated in those. Those are full of friction. You think, well, I'm a runner. And then you think, wait, you're gonna add in mud and water and boulders and ropes and all this friction, but what does it do? Man, those communities are tight. It builds incredible communities through what? Friction. So here's the deal, guys, as a wrap up. Remember, we are here for structure. Plug into it, run the playbook. If you don't like structure, you won't like us. Remember, what's there to destroy your structure is fires. You have to let some burn for sure. Right? There are all these little fires. Focus on running the plays. Great entrepreneurs are able to let fires burn, according to Reid Hoffman, who's a phenomenal entrepreneur. Remember, transformation happens, right? We have a member of our organization that has an MBA in transformational leadership and coaching, and we heard her for 10 minutes and we think, gosh, she can transform a lot of us, right? Into focus and consistency. Make public commitments with your team. Show up, connect with your team lead, have public commitments. And when they push on you to show up for the public commitments you make, remember, we're congruent human beings. All right, guys, it's 9:01. Well, 9:01 here, top of the hour. Appreciate you. Kim, thank you. Thank you for everybody that contributed and shared and poured into our community. Let's make it a great weekend. If you need me, you know where I am. I'm always available. Text me, call me. I will set up time to connect with you. Thanks, guys.